On May 12th, Gonzalo Lopez escaped a prison transport truck. Since then, there has been a manhunt for him in Texas. Earlier this week, Gonzalo murdered a family of 5, stole their vehicle, and drove 200 miles before finally being apprehended by authorities after spike strips were placed to wreck his vehicle. Gonzalo was killed in the altercation. Hey, everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. This is Katie Weaver, and I'm here with my sister, co host, and partner in crime, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey, everybody. That was awesome. I'm sister with my hair.
Yeah. I hope this is not any bit of foreshadowing for how this episode's going to go.
I
We're
think
going to
you're just
reset
still
right
there.
here.
You go. You were just still recovering from having to catch one of your tiny puppies and kick them out of your office.
They are they're so little and fast. If they want to go in a room, there's not much you can do.
Yeah.
And
I
if
heard
you
you.
get,
Bruno, Bruno, come here, little Bruno. Come on, little Bruno. Bruno,
uh
Bruno.
and then
It was
finally, all
great.
right, God damn it, come here, Bruno.
Had enough of this shit. You were cute. Now you're not.
Oh my gosh, they are something. But, while one of them is doing something and you're trying to get him out of it, the other one's into something. In some ways, I'm really glad we got 2, but in others, I wonder what the hell made us think we were young enough to have 2 little tiny puppies in this house.
Oh boy, it's like having twin toddlers, isn't it?
In some ways, for sure. Yeah. Well, when you take them out back to potty, one of them runs in the house, so you try and get the other one in, and he doesn't wanna come in, and when you finally get him in, the other one will run right back past you and go back out back.
They know how to double team you so that
Mhm.
your head is always spinning.
I'm realizing I need to be training them better with treats, which may not always
Mhm.
be the best policy, but in this house, it must be. You know,
It works, as you know, with your pigs.
with the pigs, all they have to hear is the dog food container opening, and they will move mountains to get to you. So I think I need like a little bag of treats for the puppies that shakes good so they can hear it,
Mhm,
so that they know once you go potty and come back in the house, you get a treat.
mhm.
Anyway, just thinking out loud here, but I've got to
Stroke
outsmart
the
them
bag.
somehow. I'm tired of
Yeah.
being the one being outsmarted. At
That's
any
awesome.
rate, this is our Tuesday episode,
Yes, it is.
and we've got, we're packed tight here. We've got a bunch going on.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh, yeah. I
So
mean,
I'm,
Texas, get your shit together. That's all I'm gonna say. Get
wow,
your shit together,
Texas.
Texas.
Gosh dang. Yeah. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you for a true crime update.
Yes. So, a really kind of, I don't know, interesting thing is happening right now, and that is that a judge has granted John Hinckley unconditional release after 40 years of hospitalization and supervision by the courts. You may or may not remember who John Hinckley is, but John Hinckley is the man who shot Ronald Reagan in 1981.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounded very familiar. I've been racking my brains over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He shot Reagan, wounded him, if you might recall, along with 3 other people in 1981. It
Uh-huh.
was an assassination attempt that was fortunately unsuccessful. And he was in a psychiatric facility for 35 years.
Wow.
And it was deemed to be a pretty significant mental health um, emergency when he did what he did.
Mhm.
Those who are overseeing his medical care have said that he's safe to be in the community, and he actually has been in the community since 2016, um, with restrictions. So he was
Mhm.
able to live with his mother, who recently passed away. He's been living in Williamsburg, Virginia, but he's still
Mhm.
been under some court imposed conditions,
Mhm.
and those conditions have been mandatory therapy and having doctors and therapists oversee his medical care. He
Mhm.
also has been forbidden to own a gun, which I think would be true anyway because of his charges.
Mhm.
He also cannot contact Ronald Reagan's family or the families of the other victims of the shooting. So he was
Seems
found not
legit.
yeah, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity in 1981.
Okay.
And so it actually people were really, really unhappy about that. If
Mhm.
I was 6. It was a long time ago.
Right.
Um, so they've actually improved the insanity defense standards since then,
Uh-huh.
based on John Hinckley's case, because a lot of people
Oh.
felt like it was not right that he was
Mhm.
found not guilty. But I mean, 40 years later, they've decided that he is now safe to just be released as a private citizen and will no longer receive monitoring. He is 67 years old. And, I mean, fingers crossed that he is well
Mhm.
and is no longer going to be a risk to anybody.
Wow.
But it's been a long time since anybody's talked about John Hinckley.
I would imagine.
Yeah,
Well, here we go.
right? Interesting. So hopefully we don't have
Yeah.
to hopefully we don't have to talk about him again. Let's just put it that
Mhm.
way.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah. All right, Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you for the main case.
Okay. Oh, Texas. My God.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry for children who live in Texas for a lot of different reasons. And some of you may at me and tell me that Texas is actually a great place for kids, and maybe it is in some ways. But as of late, it doesn't feel like it. And there's another reason why. Thanks to
Mhm.
Gonzalo Lopez.
Yes.
So, some of you guys may be familiar with this case. He is a convicted felon, a convicted murderer who was being transported back on May 12th and managed to get his wrist and ankle restraints off and get through a metal box to attack the driver of the transport van. There were, I believe, 16 inmates on the van or on
Mm.
the bus actually. And depending on the report you read, managed to get both of these DOJ employees off of the bus and then got back on the bus and drove it a little ways before they shot out the tires and he got off the bus again and ran. So that was
Mm.
back on the 12th. This is not the first time that he has escaped. He escaped once before and managed to stay in hiding for 9 days before he was arrested. So he's
Holy
he's
cow.
very crafty.
Yeah.
The thing is, this time, this is in an area where they did search for him from the 12th up until this week. And there's a lot of homes in that area, some of which are like vacation homes or like, weekend cabin type places.
Oh, so a lot of not regularly habited places.
And they had been supposedly, depending on, the family members you listen to, have been searching that area. And yet they missed some things apparently because he was holed up in one of the homes there,
Mm.
or at least was at some point. So I want to tell you a little bit more about him before I tell you what happened next. But he was in prison for a killing in 2015. He worked for or was involved with drug cartel.
Mm,
And near the border, he killed a man. This was the La Mana drug cartel.
okay.
He killed a man for a $40,000 drug debt. He tied him up, placed him in a shallow grave, and bludgeoned him with a pickaxe.
My God.
And then a sheriff's deputy tried to pick him up, and the authorities believed that he was actually on his way to kill another man in Laredo at the time when they picked him up, and he ended up in a firefight with police at that time.
Oh, wow.
So then he went to prison. Then, of course, in prison, he escaped once. He's been convicted of 2 counts of aggravated assault for and had 2 8-year sentences on that, then capital murder, aggravated kidnapping, and he had another life sentence after a conviction for attempted capital murder in 2007.
Oh, my God. How could they possibly be letting this guy escape? Like, how is he not in situations to make sure that he can't?
Well, he should have been.
Yeah.
He should have been. And there is some real rumblings and grumblings right now that he had help.
Oh, no.
No proof of that yet, but Duty Ron, who has a really popular crime YouTube channel, and
Mm-hmm.
others are saying that there is some compelling evidence that will be out shortly that he had help.
My God,
Yeah.
is this another Casey White situation?
I don't think so. I'm
Probably
guessing
not,
this
but
is more like bribery and money type situation.
yeah, surely could be. How scary.
So he's been on the run. There's been a supposed manhunt going on for him for a while, right? So finally, the police put out a statement, the Leon County Police Department, that he has been captured. As it turned out, he was captured deceased. He was killed
Mm-hmm.
in a firefight with them. So, how did it happen? Well, about a mile away from where he first escaped. It's been 2 weeks. Bear that in mind. He A family member called the sheriff's office there and said, "Hey, I have family in the area in a cabin or a weekend home there. They just went for a day trip to go fishing and we can't get a hold of them."
Mm.
So the police went to that property and discovered grandpa and 4 children had all been gunned down
Oh,
and their vehicle was missing.
oh dear.
This is the truck. So, of
Just
course,
a
an
white
APB,
pickup.
yep, a white pickup, dented on the side, like a work truck, a farm truck was what they determined was missing. And so
Mm-hmm.
an APB was put out on that vehicle and he was found 200 miles away. So he was headed
Mm.
towards they think he was headed towards Mexico, and they put down spike strips and he hit those strips and then hit a tree and still ended up trying to engage in a firefight with the police where they gunned him down. So he's done.
Wow.
But 4 children
Mm.
4 children have died.
And their grandpa. Oh, that's
Mhm.
so sad.
Yep.
Where
They
did he
were
get the
just gonna go
guns?
fishing. So some other houses in the area were robbed. And so there's a real question about whether he had an AK, I know that'll come as a surprise,
Mm.
and a handgun. And they
Mm.
don't know there I don't know if they don't know, but I don't know. It's been reported both ways that he stole from that house a gun or those guns. There's also been reports, though, that he robbed other houses in the area. There is a report that a ghillie suit was stolen as well, and
Oh,
that perhaps he's been hiding out in the woods around there while the police were searching all these places in camouflage.
it sure could have been.
But this is what one of their family members said. This is a comment on a Click to Houston news story. I'm not going to tell you the family member's name. She said, "This was my family that was killed, my uncle and 4 of my sweet nephews. They went up to our ranch our family ranch for a day of fishing, having no idea law enforcement had found on Monday that he had been hiding out on the ranch next to ours.
Oh,
If law
no.
enforcement, who was in contact with my uncle from day one, had notified him of that, he would have never taken his 4 grandkids up there. Someone screwed
Right?
up big and they will be held responsible. So, according to family, then, there had been some break ins. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I, the guns were stolen from the area. I think it's safe to assume that, but we don't know exactly what house they came from.
Mhm. Oh, that's so sad.
Yep.
And this was obviously a man that should never been transported in a big group like that. Why wasn't he
No.
shackled? Like,
Yeah.
there's so many questions here about, when you start talking
Mhm.
about his criminal history, like, this is a very and he's escaped before?
Yeah.
Like, such a dangerous person. Why?
Mhm. Right? I mean,
Why?
look at all the crimes he's committed. I mean, this is a person with absolutely no conscience at all.
No, no, and I mean, clearly attempts to protect the public were not taken in
No.
transporting him.
No.
That's terrible.
No. And then in escape as well. So it sounds like the neighbors did know, that to be on high alert that he could be in the area. But
Mhm.
then when they knew that he'd been breaking into homes, they didn't come back and report that.
Right,
Very
and that
concerning.
they knew that he'd been staying somewhere nearby. Oh, that's
Hmm.
oof,
All credit, though, to those who managed to take him off the streets.
definitely.
The children that were murdered were, it sounds like, between the ages of about 10 and 16.
Oh my
We
god.
know that some of them were high school students and some of them were more like grade school students. Yeah.
That is so horrifying for their families.
Their school district had put out a statement that they were providing services and whatnot because 4 children from their district had just been murdered.
Mm,
Yeah.
boy, when
Yeah.
does it ever end?
I don't know. So, Texas, seriously, come on.
Yeah, wow.
But there you go. So, I am going to kick the mic back over to you for, let's see, a DNA for the win.
Yes. So, how would it feel to have a family member missing for 50 years before they've
Ooh,
been identified?
yikes.
This happened in Florida, of course, Florida.
Hmm.
Um, Susan Poole, who was 15, went missing just before Christmas in 1972. She'd been living kind of back and forth with her family and a friend,
Hmm.
and she just disappeared, and nobody knew where
Oh,
she went. Her clothes and wallet were left behind. Like, she just
just
disappeared.
vanished. Oh,
Yeah. In June of 1974, human remains, skeletal remains, were found in Palm Beach County, Florida. She had been tied to a tree in the mangroves with wire, and all that was
oh,
left were skeletal remains.
oh,
That
that's
body,
horrific.
yeah, very horrific. So we don't know exactly how she died, if she was left to starve there or something, but that's where her bones were found. But that case went cold, as did Susan's missing persons case,
Hmm.
and no one knew what had ever happened to her until in 2015, her DNA was submitted into a national persons database. That didn't turn up anything. But we have a
Hmm.
lot of this backlog getting looked at now with
Yeah.
the new DNA technology. And then, this is a different forensics lab, which I think is kind of funny because we always hear about
Yeah,
Parabon, but
Parabon, yeah.
this is Othram, which is in
Oh, okay,
Texas.
sure.
And they, they do the genealogical DNA profiles,
Yeah.
and they actually were able to provide the names of Susan's mother and her siblings.
Wow.
And so now at least her family knows what happened to her. Now,
Wow.
of course, there's questions about what happened to her. It is believed that she may have been a victim of a serial killer that was active in Florida at the time. His name is Gerard Schaefer, and he actually died in prison in 1995.
Of course.
But they do believe near Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which is where she went missing, he was found guilty of murdering two other girls who were 16 and 17.
Hmm.
And so that's it. They think it was probably him. They will likely never prove it for sure.
Yeah.
But at least there is some closure for the Poole family. It unfortunately is 50 years too late, but
Yeah.
it's something. Soon we're going to hear these stories with people who just barely went missing or,
Yes.
or were murdered. Like it's not going to take
Hmm.
50 years anymore
Right. We
to
had a
identify.
DNA for the win last week that was from 2009.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
catching up. But
And the
seeing
perpetrator
these old cases,
was actually apprehended in that one. It's these cold
yeah.
ones always dead. The perpetrator's always dead, and that's just
Hmm.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Not
It
a lot of
is.
justice in that.
No, and unfortunately, so often their immediate family members are too. A lot of
Right?
times they died never knowing what happened
Never
to their
knowing
person. Yeah.
their parents. Can you imagine
Hmm.
dying not knowing what happened to a child of yours that went missing? That's
Hmm.
terrible.
For
But
sure.
we are very pleased with, the new genealogical DNA profiles and how amazing that is for identifying people
Hmm.
and for identifying killers. So
Yeah.
there you have it. Another DNA for the win.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, this has been our Tuesday episode. We'll be back on Wednesday for a couple of things. We'll be back with a brand new episode. We'll be back Wednesday night for case updates. Then we'll be back Thursday night for another live stream. That is the Psychic Hour. So we
Hmm.
still have so much more to come. And just a quick note, if you did not check out our episode yesterday, it actually aired on Friday. We did things a little out of order this week because this case is the time is of the essence and we wanted to get it out there. But it is a missing teenager from Utah, Dylan Rounds. We're continuing to track that case closely, but if you haven't watched it, please do. Please help if you can. If you've seen anything, if you know anything, if you know people in the area, please share his missing stuff. Pay attention. His family really needs the support of the community more than ever. So,
So much.
yep. And we'll always continue to update that case as well. So thanks so much
Definitely.
for being here. This has been yet another production of True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Take care.
Bye, everybody.